On the 30th of October 2013, Boston Red here. We have a special report here on the nurse that returned from Sierra Leone that was part of a number of aid workers, medical workers there for Doctors Without Borders, Médecins Sans Frontières, the French medical organization that has been around for many years. And she held a news conference there in Fort Kent in the state of Maine. Her struggle is a human rights struggle. She related to the reporters there are roughly about 28 workers that will be returning to the States in the next few days or few weeks. So it is a campaign beyond just Kaci Hickox. It is a campaign, a human rights campaign. It sort of has similarities with an early 1900s trial in the state of Tennessee. The Scopes trial, it was evolution versus nonsense. Clarence Darrell, of course, was the attorney there in that particular case. And what we see here is science, as was in the Scopes trial, versus ignorance. And some people would call that, quote-unquote, common sense of 1,000 years or 2,000 years or whatever they want to call it. But that type of position is one that the caveman and cavewoman had. They were in a cave. They did not have fire until obviously the Africans appeared there and brought them fire. But that type of society is sort of like the 1920s society that the party of Pat Buchanan has. And further amplified from the Goldwater days, this type of ignorance takes on the weaknesses and vulnerabilities, fears of the voters. There has been instances that LePage, a right-wing nut in the state of Maine, he's running for governor there, and also you had there campaigning for him a corrupt politician named Two-Ton Christie out of New Jersey, and we know about New Jersey. Ms. Hickox was detained illegally in a parking lot at a medical center in the urban ghetto of Newark that used to be presided over by one Cory Booker, now a senator known as a Twitter king. But Two-Ton was trying to make political capital on that, just as his associate Texas Perry in Texas with The Rock. But it was a disaster at Presby in Texas. Thus, Texas Perry left and went off to Europe. Then he returned to lead something after Judge Jenkins had already led it. So this is part of the lesson here that is coming as we see the polls very close, and we'll be back on Friday Jobber tonight and also the week that was, and the Monday morning quarterback to talk more about these polls, the toss-ups, these elections that are in the margin of error, which is for most of the time 3 points. In some elections, there are a number of people that are undecided. And also you have the monopoly media here, which were in Fort Kent. Let's go to that story. This is the Portland news outlet there that we used as an interview. You'll be hearing that interview in the minute from Maine. And we'll of course get it up here as quickly as we can do that. And the headline here, and let me see, is this the one out of, yeah, this is the newspaper, the Portland Press Herald. And the headline here is Police Watch, Nurse Kaci Hickox comes out of Fort Kent house and speaks to the media. You'll hear that. But the main nurse who treated Ebola patients in West Africa came out of her boyfriend's home Wednesday night. to speak with reporters about the state-ordered 21-day quarantine that prohibits her from leaving the residence before the 10th of November. Her boyfriend is Ted Wilbert, and they met with reporters around 7 o'clock, while state and local constabulary were across the street. She said, and you'll hear this, we've been in negotiation all day with the state of Maine trying to resolve this in an amicable way, but they are not allowing me to leave my house or interact with the public, even though I'm completely healthy. She is symptomatic, which means she is symptom-free. And her temperature has been taken by many people. You'll also hear in the part after us the position of the state of Maine there. It'll be Mary, she's a commissioner there, Mayhe. Said the state will go to court. They want to prove that they are responsible people. She arrived at Newark Liberty International Airport and was placed on a forced quarantine there, the article says, which has recently established a blanket quarantine for healthcare workers returning to the U.S. from countries in West Africa, that's Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia. She also obtained a prominent civil rights attorney, and they will fight this. She is doing this, as we said, for other healthcare workers. This is a civil rights struggle, as we said, coming in here against science, against ignorance. So it's a situation that will play out in the next few days and will play out in other communities. And we were getting to another story here. Friends say Maine nurse is trying to help others, as usual, in the battle over the quarantine. Now, this is also a story here by Joe Lawyer, friends of Kaci Hickox, the nurse at the center of the national debate. It is indeed a national debate. She is fighting this cause for others. That is from Neer Patel, a long-time friend who said Hickox has a passion for exploring other countries and a strong commitment to humanitarian work. No doubt. Infectious disease specialists, including scientists writing for the New England Journal of Medicine. We had that article up and we read it in another episode. If you want to go back and on our Facebook page, and also at bostonred.org is the post written by these particular doctors. Needless to say, top Maine health officials say they will seek an order to compel Hickox to abide by 21-day quarantine out of abundance of caution. Now, Ebola is not a contagious disease. It's not airborne, as they like to say. It can only be transmitted through contact with bodily fluids. And in the U.S., there is no doubt a test case, not a large test case. Obviously, it's not a clinical study. But Mr. Duncan, who arrived from Liberia and was housed in a flat, a 2-bedroom flat there in Dallas, for 4 or 5 days, I believe it was 4 days, with 4 or 5 people, including his girlfriend. And those people were placed on a quarantine. They were taken to a property owned by the Archdiocese of Dallas by Judge Jenkins. Now, Judge Jenkins rode in the motor car with them, drove them there. He did not catch Ebola, nor did any of those 4 people. and Mr. Duncan was there eating at the same table, using the same bathroom facilities, etc. And he went to the the Texas Presbyterian Medical Center, sat in the emergency room, no doubt in close vicinity of a number of people, was examined there by a nurse, given Tylenol, the antibiotic, for a sinusitis, a sinus infection, basically speaking. We've had that before. Didn't have the antibiotics, but it's neither here nor there on that particular case. He was sent home. He reappears 2 days later by medical transport. And as he was leaving the house, he was vomiting, had diarrhea, etc. And the people obviously would have been exposed to him in the yard and whatever. And none of those people caught Ebola. Now, this is where it's a very perplexing argument. It's worse than the Scopes trial on the issue. Hickox on national TV Wednesday morning said she's appalled at the quarantine and not be bullied by politicians. No doubt. Hickox friends say it's not surprising that she's taken a principled stand. Some people need to, as the teacher in the back hills of Tennessee. Normally when hysteria sets in and the so-called proponents of caution, common sense, and other, as they say, adjectives are out there, and then you have the political hucksters like Christie and LePage using the ignorance of people to further their political careers. She's a strong, compassionate person. That's Patel. He's 32. He's a Fort Worth software developer, and Hickox, a former classmate at the University of Texas at Arlington. She's really concerned about her colleagues coming back to the U.S. after her. These are heroes and not criminals. That's why we titled this episode Kaci Hickox All-American Hero. Hickox, a native Texan, for several weeks helped treat Ebola patients in Sierra Leone. She is from Texas, but she's not Texas Perry. Patel said he tried to lift Hickox's spirits while she was held for 3 days at the Newark hospital by mailing a Texas flag for Hickox to hang in the solitary tent. I didn't know she was there for 3 days. We get something new every day here. I looked at the story and saw that Christie was on the job in his annex and just did not pay any attention to him. She was joking around, saying that the only thing missing from this tent was a Texas flag, so I got one on Amazon and sent it. That's Mr. Patel. Hickox grew up an hour from Fort Worth, attended Rio Vista High School, that's according to the New York Times. After graduating in 2002, she worked for Médecins Sans Frontières, that's Doctors Without Borders, traveling to Uganda, Nigeria, and Sudan, and Myanmar. There, so she also worked for the U.S. Center for Disease Control in Las Vegas. She has a master's degree in nursing from Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore. She's always giving of herself to others, as from Roger Ornelas. He's an assistant principal from Arlington, Texas, and also a friend of hers. She wrote about her experiences of caring for patients in Newark in Nigeria on the Médecins Sans Frontières site, Doctors Without Borders. She wrote a typical day of starting in a bamboo shelter to the sound of glucose, followed by a breakfast of strict rice and shaved coconut, good for the soul there. Then she went off to work in surrounding villages with her teammates traveling by tractor. we would treat more than 1,200 civilians